Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Today we have a little bit of a different format than the past. Today we have an open discussion with Greg Sutton of TinyEYE Therapy Services. So right now, all of you are currently muted. Should you have a question, please feel free to type it in chat or even just unmute yourself, ask your question. I'll ask you to just go back on mute just so we can manage our bandwidth and also just any background noises, things like that. For those of you who are less familiar with Greg is the co-founder and CEO of TinyEYE Therapy Services, which is the first company in the world to provide speech language pathology services online. And so Greg and his sister Marnie have taken their company from being a small startup to an emerging world leader in online speech therapy. And we're very, very lucky to have Greg join us today and offer his expertise and guidance with all his many years of experience and various experiences just across the board. So with that, I will turn it over to, well, Greg, you and all of you joining us here today. Please feel free. Let's have an open discussion. We want to hear not only about your successes, of course, but also what is on your mind. What are some of the challenges you're currently facing? And let's all help each other.
Thank you so much, Sona. Yeah, thank you for having me. I saw, in recent presentations, there's been a number of great presentations that are very specific and tailored to certain parts, and a lot of them dealing with the COVID specifically. And I thought, you know what, there's a lot of resources, a lot of time spent, and a lot of great things have happened in that. And I thought maybe we could take a step back and say, you know what, COVID is one variable in our whole business environment. Yeah, it's a big, loud variable, but it's not the only variable. And the business success comes through the repetition of business fundamentals. And getting back to the fundamentals and really knowing what those are within your business is how we've managed to survive the previous recession in 2008, 2009, and then as well the dot-com boom. I didn't survive that in the business I was in at the time. And there's a lot of good takeaways from that, where we didn't have fundamentals of our business. They weren't sound. We were focused on where the dot-com bubble was going, all that kind of stuff. And we paid sorely for it. And in the last 6 weeks, or however long it's been now since the world's changed, we went through a few phases of, okay, March 16th, all of our services are delivered in schools across North America in about 30 or 40 states and just about every province, and every school shut down. So we lost about 2.4 million of booked revenue in one morning, and yet we still had all of our expenses, all of our commitments to our staff, all the different things going there. And it was a scary time. There was none of the government funding relief things announced yet or even imagined. And we were a bit in a tailspin. So immediately what we did is said, okay, our old business plan is dead. We're going to throw that out the window and rewrite a new vision for this next 6 months. And not meaning that at the end of 6 months, this whole COVID world will be over, but that we will be able to adjust and adapt to the world, whatever it is. And we needed to focus on our core strength as a business. What are we best in the world at? What can we be the best in the world at? And then build on top of that. And we need to restructure around our certain core value propositions and then let go of some other things. And we did that rapidly. And since that time, we've been able to generate, a few $100,000 in new revenue, all sorts. We've got a bunch of good things happening right now due to some of those early changes, but there's still a lot of things we need to get through. And as the month has progressed, we've gone from chaos to a little more organization and a path and new dashboards, new everything, new metrics for the business. And a lot of it came from just responding to the business and our market, regardless of what it was, and getting back to some of the fundamental processes that drive the business from designing how we design our new steps. We start with prototypes and so on and so forth, how we approach our market, what our culture is going to be like and feel like during this time, and then the strategies that drive all of that. So that's just a little bit of a background on me and the business in the last month. The previous 15 years, though, we spent building this business, learning and failing, and we started in 2005, and we've gained a lot of success over the years through a lot of different veins, and I've got a lot of experience in different iterations of financial models, of marketing strategies, of sales strategies, of operational strategies, of HR strategies, of overall direction of the business strategies, of building a leadership team, of deconstructing a leadership team, of rebuilding a leadership team, of reorganizing the company, and so on. So I just was hopeful that I could share some of that experience with anybody who is wanting to try and extract it from me, so you don't have to fail and fall on the same landmines that I did along my path. And maybe I'll just pause there and say, who would like to start off with a question or an idea or something they want to ponder?
Again, feel free to either type into the chat or just unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, Greg. This is Kirk here from TinyEYE, and yeah, thank you for coming to share what's going on in your business life right now. What I'm wondering is with this with COVID, what new opportunities are you getting faced with, that opportunities that you never had before prior to the COVID?
Certainly. So for us in our business specifically, we deliver online therapy to kids in schools. And so we're built to work remotely. We're built for this remote environment. We were not built to serve thousands of kids at home. And our software and all the things are designed for school interfacing and the school IT systems and all that kind of stuff. And so previous to March 16th, we were serving about just over 4,000 kids every week, 4,100 or 4,200, somewhere in there. And our strategy was, our first big step of the marathon was to transfer as many of those kids to home-based therapy as we could. And a lot of the regions we serve are rural and remote, and they didn't have good contact information for the parents. The parents had changed cell phone providers 3 times that year. There wasn't technology in the home. There wasn't internet at home. There wasn't a number of different elements for doing that. And then we get them and they set up an appointment, and the parents don't log on and show up. And so in all of that, though, we've been able to get around 1,400 kids out of the 4,000 receiving therapy at home. And that was the first step. And the opportunity that comes from that is, okay, now we're getting really good at serving in the home and delivering value there, working with parents, and going from a B2B to a B2C model is where we're headed next. So the other thing we did in tandem to that is launch our home health platform, which is people can sign up if they've got private benefits insurance or they just want to pay for therapy for their child. And we can automate that whole process of matching them with a therapist and so on. And so we've been going through a number of iterations of building that path. And it seems simple on paper, but it's a lot more complex. There's a lot of nuances in collecting paperwork, getting permissions, consents, payment, when does that happen, and all those different things. And we are working through solving that. We're 3 or 4 weeks in, and we're able to connect with a company called People Corp, which is one of Canada's largest benefits providers. They have millions of people, or hundreds of thousands, if not millions of benefit people that they cover, and they get paid on the number of claims they process. And their claim revenue went way down because people aren't getting massages, they're not going to the dentist, they're not doing all these things. So they're looking to find companies they can promote to get their claims up. And last year they had over 67,000 speech therapy claims, and now that's down to, it's a trickle. So they came to us and said, hey, can we promote you as our preferred vendor? Can we come up with a deal? We need you to be nationwide and all that stuff, in which we were. We're one of the, I think probably the only private therapy company in Canada that has a nationwide presence in every province. And so we're just in the process. We signed a deal with them about a week and a half ago, and we're doing our launch on May 11th that week to all of their subscribers and whatnot. And we're hopeful that that's going to make up a huge deficit in our booked revenue. And the thing that worked there is we saw a little bit of that light coming, and we thought we got to build this process and build a path so we can get into that market. And then the market came to us before we were ready, but now we're getting ready fast, and we were already about 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the game when that happened. And so the lesson there for me, and which I've learned before in all of these things, is figure out where the most likely next set of revenue streams are going to come for. And before you have enough information to really make that decision, just get to it and start building. And then as you're building, go out and test the market, and which is a lot of reverse of what traditional business thinking is. You first go and test your assumptions, test the market, build some prototypes and so on. We didn't have the luxury of time. And so we made our bet based on a lot of gut feel, gut check, and all of you have that in your business, things you think might be able to work. And for us, it's hope, like, we don't know what's going to come out of it, but we're hopeful that there's a real strong light out of there. And picking something and then saying no to everything else. So during this time, we've had tons of schools, other private therapy companies and so on come to us and want to license our software, which we can do, and we could have generated revenue from. But we looked at our internal team capabilities, our strengths, what we're good at, and all those types of things. And we're not good at that. Our software isn't built to be licensed by other companies. We'd have to do a whole bunch of changes, and then the training, and then people using our system that don't use it well, giving their customers a bad experience with our system and so on. So we said, you know what, let's just say no to that right across the board. And every day we still get inquiries about it, but I'm glad we've said no. Watching some of our competitors who didn't, and they're flailing all over the place with it, and it's distracting them from the larger goal of focusing on their core competencies. There's a long answer to your short question. Do you see any, Kirk or anyone else on the call, do you see any things that you can pull from there or translate into your business?
Greg, it's Rosie Kinnaird from Sandy Shores and Kinnaird Bagpipes.
Hey, good to see you.
And I really appreciate hearing some of the success stories. We're hearing a lot about challenges. For me, I really am, I'm interested to hear your experience, because I think there's pieces in all of that we can all relate to. To speak about our experiences during this time, for our bagpipe business is a wholesale and retailer of bagpipe supplies, and our business hasn't changed that much. We have less contact with Canada Post, but we were always e-commerce and as our primary function, and we have slowed down, but we're using the time to to manufacture and to review our marketing, and we found that we've been able to keep our staff 100% busy with a little bit less revenue stream, and to really understand the government programs that are available that are making that quite a bit easier decisions for us. At Sandy Shores Resort, we're seeing significant increased traffic as far as just people driving through the development. So and I feel like I saved up a couple months worth of work that I'd been just keeping track of and hadn't got to because things had been so busy. So we are working through that to-do list, but we prioritized website review and upgrades, and self-tour, because we're seeing a lot of our website traffic is actually up. I don't think people are making decisions at this time, but they are pondering recreational options for the future that are close to home. So we wanted to highlight those. So we've upgraded our galleries and our images and our website in general, and making sure that we have self-tour options on site, because there is a number of the traffic here it's fantastic, and we want to take advantage of that. So those are, and we're sending out newsletters more often. We usually just do monthly, and we're finding that we're getting really good feedback from doing them weekly. People are at home and they have time on their hands. And the other thing, I've often struggled to get reviews, both on Facebook and Google, and we've reached out to a number of our committed customers on an individual basis and asked for reviews, and we're getting we won't get lots, but we're hoping to get 5 to 10 on each, and that's great for us, and it helps with search engine optimization. But people have times on their hand, and that's also given us a chance to really personally touch base with each of those customers and see lot owners, and see what they're doing and if they need any support or anything from us. So those have been some good really positive things that have come out of this for us, and we have lots of planning, and we're trying to use that time effectively, but also not to put the stress to be that everyone has to be 100% efficient, to really cut our staff a lot of slack, that if they're done at 4 o'clock, they've put in a good day and there's lots of other stuff going on, and we need some flexibility in our hearts and minds at this time as well. So that's some of my experience.
Thank you for sharing. There's lots of good takeaways in there. So just to drive it back to some of the business fundamentals that you discussed, you mentioned you reprioritized a list of things that you had to work on. Those are things, that's what we're finding too, is we're doing things that we should have been doing, and maybe you were doing this beforehand, but we weren't doing them consistently or with enough cadence. And reaching out to customers, getting reviews, we should have been doing that beforehand. We're doing those kind of things now, but we weren't really doing them before, but we should have been, and we could have been, and it could have really helped our business then. And when the world comes back to some semblance of functionality, having all these new strengths built in and these new processes are going to be what enables you to fly. And there's a lot of businesses out there that are kind of just putting their hands up and not doing that stuff, not working hard. Many are, but there's some that are not, and it's the ones that survive and thrive through this that will get the pot of gold at the end of all of it. I like how you've identified self-tours and all those types of things as a better way to maybe customer acquisition, and you can reduce your customer acquisition costs by having some of that, or increase your conversion rates, is what I'm assuming in there. I'm really interested in the music side of the business with the bagpipes. My wife is a musician, and she what they've been doing is using some of these apps they each record their part, and then it puts it together for them and promote, and there's lots of opportunities to guide your client base perhaps, and how to jam with others. What we looked at in our business is, where are we a vendor, a preferred vendor, a trusted advisor, or a strategic partner? And what do we need to do to be either the trusted advisor or strategic partner during this time? So right now is such a great opportunity with your clients. If you become that trusted advisor or strategic partner now, the retention for the next 10 years is just there. They just know that no matter what comes at the world, you're going to be a great partner for them to be. And just in the little bits of training of how our staff, you first have to see yourself as an advisor before they see you as the advisor. So don't go and ask them how many kids are coming. Say, advise them on how to best figure out these steps in the process and things like that. And we found some success in some of those fundamental shifts in our business. So anyways, thank you for sharing. There's lots of good takeaways there. What else? Who else would have a question or something to share? And don't be
I'd
afraid
be
to turn the
interested
camera
to.
on.
I'd be interested to hear if other businesses, either in their own experience or just hearing about businesses in their community or outside, that there's challenges that can be addressed, or success stories, because I think that it's been very positive for me to hear about some of those success stories and to build on those. So if anyone has examples about their business or other businesses that they're willing to speak to, I'd like to hear that.
I can speak to clarity coaching and development. And hi, Greg.
Hey,
We've
good
been
to see
meaning to
you.
go for coffee for a long time, so I finally get to see you. I do have a question for you, but I'll give you my success story first. Networking etiquette is my #1 topic across Canada. And during COVID, I also am certified in stress and change management, and I can do all of my personality profiling, corporate team building online. Not something I've done before, but it is in demand right now. So as you said, Greg, you know, to pivot, to find where the niche is right now and to gear your company towards that, it's been amazing. And I've never spent this much time with my boyfriend ever in the 2.5 years that we've been dating, because I'm usually flying all over Canada. So it's really cool. I can still do networking etiquette online, but the stress management piece has really come up and it's been great. And Greg, my question for you, you were such a successful entrepreneur, extremely inspiring. You've had ups and downs over the years. What are some, you know, coping strategies or positive affirmations? What do you say to yourself to keep going? Because to see your trajectory is just phenomenal.
Thanks, and thank you for sharing. That's a great, I'd love to hear how you pivoted, and that's amazing to see, and just the potential opportunities that come to you now because you have that ability to deliver all of your value through the internet. Even once this is over, you can carry that forward, and that's really cool to see. So with some of the strategies and kind of around the stress management maybe, and around coping with how personally deal with all of this, well, I had a little mantra. I wrote it on my whiteboard behind me. You can't see it. I replaced my background with a nice scene to get me in my mood or whatever. I'll just read it to you, and I would read this every day when I came in. I just pull it off. Your personal scoreboard in this pandemic is: are you social distancing? Yes or no? That is all you need to know about what is going on outside your doors, in the media, in Spain, in the USA, in Singapore, in the labs, and so on. That is not your scoreboard. So tune it out and stay focused. We are in dark times, and they're going to get darker day by day. There are billions of people out there searching for a light. Your job is not to be the one that finds the light. Your job is to be the light. And that's what I'd read every morning when I came in, and then I'd start my day. And so to know that, you know, I'm a leader in my company, in my community, in many facets of my life, and this is my time to do that, to lead, and to understand what is the requirement of a leader today, and really focus on that and lead my company through this. And having that focus and having that next step and having that drive and giving myself the permission to just get rid of the rest of the noise, let go of that noise, ignore the noise, and stay focused, actually reduced my stress incredibly. It's something in the early days of this, it was so intense with everybody. Everybody was in chaos and panic mode, and to stay outside of that swirl, to not check Facebook, to not watch the news, to not do any of that stuff. If something big was going to happen, someone would tell me. Other than that, I'm focusing on transitioning my business. And when you have a single purpose in mind, it's every decision is, are we moving towards that or away from that? It's not, should we do this or that? It's, does this help us or not? And that can greatly reduce your stress. Having, like what I said, the first thing we did was rewrite our vision statement. And in doing so, the reason I did that was gives everybody that one guiding light that we're going towards. So everybody in my organization, we have about 50 staff on our corporate team. Everybody can make decisions without having to come to me. So we can speed up the rate of change dramatically just by having everybody be able to make a decision that's going to impact that vision. And that helped. I think that helped a lot of people. And then personally, I'm a foster parent. We've got 3 kiddos at home. When I come to the office every day, I'm the only one here. Most days, sometimes 1 or 2 people come in to check the mail, do other things. But when I get home, I turn it off and I just focus on time with the kids and with my wife, and just go with that. And they bring a lot of joy and excitement to the day. And I just try to be present when I'm with them. And that was a struggle at first as well. And then thirdly is, and many people have been doing this, is just keeping up social connections. Some of my old college buddies, we get on a Zoom call or whatever and have a pint on Friday nights, and just being kind to myself and saying, you know what, I did my best this week. This is all I could do. We didn't get to where I wanted to, but we got somewhere, and I'm just going to let that go and focus on next week. And those are the kind of things I've been doing, and they've been helpful.
Thank you. Stay
Yeah.
focused, be the light, be present. I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Who else would like to bring up a success that they've like to share, or a strategy, or if they have a question, maybe you have a stumbling block, or maybe there's something you're just not sure of how to put a thinking framework in place around something. Who would like to take a go?
Hi, Greg. This is Joan Kleinster calling. And what I've been trying to tell some companies to do is look at if they've never done a SWOT analysis, to do one now, or if they've done one when they first started their business, to go back to it and look at what strengths that they do have, and where they can, when they write it down on paper, they can notice some of the areas where they're able to pivot to. We've actually been fairly successful because we do training, and some of our training prior to this was done online. So our students are now learning how to do it online. And actually today they had their first webinar for a group of 10 students. And it's very successful. They're loving it, most of them, and realizing how much work it actually takes, but they're moving on. So one of the things, like I said, is the SWOT analysis. And I just asking, I guess, yourself, what do you think about that for companies to do?
That's a great question, and we've done that as well. And we use that, so it gives you your strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and it helps you focus really what is it that we're good at. It's a good centering and focusing exercise. But then what do you do once you're done? So we use that in our scenario planning. We took what is our strength, and we looked at we have 3 potential scenarios that we're planning for, and each one has different escapes within. But one is, this was just a dream. Some genius in a lab somewhere comes up with something and we're all saved tomorrow. Very low propriety, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but that's one potential outcome. Second is there's, I guess on the other side of it is we're in a second wave. Like for us next September when schools start up, if they're not open, we're in a whole different kettle of fish. So is the same as today, maybe even worse. That's that scenario. What do we do there? And then the third is a hybrid model where maybe schools open, but kids come in cohorts. So there's a group that come on Monday, a group that come on Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, and whatever, that kind of thing. And within each of those, if you draw a Venn diagram of where can we be strong in any of those scenarios, and take that from your SWOT, and we plunked in our best thing is we provide the world's best therapy. So it's speech therapy specifically. And so in that, there's a core of how we can deliver that, the elements to that market, all those things within that function. And if we focus on that and make sure that we're not losing quality, that we're not letting go of some of the investments we make in quality and all the things around that quality assurance, that we hold that as our core that we're going to protect. And then the rest is up for grabs, right? And then the same with weaknesses. Which ones would hurt us in each of those models? And so I like the SWOT. I find where it's, yeah, you have to find the next step of where to apply it to make it really useful and drive out that value. And I think it's a great exercise to do as an individual entrepreneur or with your team or whatever the state of your business is. So that's my reflections on it. Yeah.
Great. Greg, you have a comment in the chat there
Oh.
if you have access to it.
I do. Okay, from Elizabeth. Thanks so much, Greg, for sharing. You've done projects with proteges of the Rosmatic Mentorship Program over the years. Your ability and effort to see the big picture and follow your vision statement have inspired me. I've been getting more interest from prospects through the COVID period since clients have had more time for writing and editing, two of my main services, than in earlier times, and so have gotten in touch with me. I've pivoted to strengthen my LinkedIn connections most recently, which I had badly neglected for years. Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear that you've found some opportunities in this. And then again, you found a path to your customers and through LinkedIn and strengthening your presence there and using that as a channel. And that's part of the business fundamentals of what is the channel to your market and being ready for, get your sail up, get the boat on the water, and the winds will come. And that's essentially it. So your market's picked up because they've got some downtime. And that's one of the biggest opportunities I've seen in this time, and I've seen it not exploited as much as it could be, is so many businesses have a little bit of breathing room for strategic planning, for redesigning things, for putting in new systems, for all sorts of things. And even in like the restaurant industry, they're all got their doors closed. Well, what a great time to renovate. And they're worried about cash flow, but some of them have cash flow and some of them have access to ways of doing that. And the restaurateurs I've talked to, none of the construction industry has reached out to them and say, hey, you need renos. Nobody's knocking on their door or calling them. And there's many other industries like that. And this is a great example of people slowing down and now they've got time for some of those side projects or things that they're interested in. So that's a really good indicator that you're taking advantage of that and you're well prepared. Thank you, Elizabeth.
It's Roncy again. One of the success stories early on that I was aware of was YXC Quick Clean in Midtown. They closed as required, but then were able to reopen as soon as they were able to gain the proper PPE. And the market that they had previously targeted, the office workers or customers in the mall, had disappeared, but they were cleaning emergency vehicles, which had have to be cleaned much more regularly. And so they were able to pivot really quickly and move to a different market. And so I have to give them a lot of credit for the quick pivot.
That's another great story. And it's saying essentially what's their core? What are they good at? Well, we're good at really deep cleaning. We're good at whatever that element of the cleaning is. Who else needs this in what way now? The whole world shifted. It's like the snow globe. Okay, where did all the pieces land? Oh, there's an opening here. And being able to react and take advantage of it quickly. In the .com I was in that failed in 99, 2000, we did online travel guides in Southeast Asia. It was a lot of fun. It was one of the best years of my life, but financially horrible. And luckily I was very young and I only owned a Walmart shirt, so losing my shirt didn't really matter. But one of the things we didn't do is we had our original business plan and we tried like crazy to make that plan work as opposed to adjusting to a plan that could work in the world. And I think that's where I've seen internally in our company, my whole business career has been about pivoting, changing, going with all this, operating in a chaos world, in a VUCA world. Many people haven't had that experience or didn't have that kind of business upbringing. And it was stressful and hard for them. And as a leader, I didn't do a good enough job of helping them mentally prepare for some of the changes that would be going on within the company. And yeah, that was one of my learnings right now is to spend a little more time on helping people get their heads around what's happened and what it means and what it's going to feel like, and when it will start feeling better and all those kind of things. So yeah. Okay, who else has a question or would something to ponder?
I'm hoping everyone has access to mentorship to kind of fill in those very specific questions. So these opportunities, there has been a few, but I'm finding a lot of them, you know, don't have a lot of opportunity for the things that might be really personal to your business. So I've been able to, you know, on some of those individual questions, reach out to my mentorship, and lots of us do have time at this point. So I've reached out to a lot of my business contacts to just make myself available as people need support or to run things past. And one of the things that came up this week is that the Canada Summer Student Program, I have applied every year previously, but I've really struggled with accessing quality labor, and I'm remote, and so I just thought maybe this year I would forego the program. They have opened it up, so if people are interested in that, it can be accessed through your Member of Parliament. And the program has changed in the they're offering a longer time period to employ students, and also an increased subsidy. So we're gonna apply and look at the labor pool again. And we always evaluate that to make sure that it's a positive for the entire team. And that we're not, those training resources are well spent, but that's an opportunity that came up this week that will that might be of interest to others as well.
Thank you for sharing. That's a good one to look into. Okay, who else would like to pose a question, or maybe has a challenge that they're currently facing and they're not quite sure how to look at it, or could use some extra set of eyes on, or anything else you'd like to share within the group?
Greg, I have a question here in the private chat. There's the question is essentially just to cut it down a little bit around adapting the business model to reduce cost in the short and medium term. So, you know, they're talking about the significant impact, financial impact of COVID on their business, and so they're wondering how they can adapt their business model to reduce costs in the short and medium term.
That's a really good question. So lots of things, you know, is look at all of your current contracts and engagements that you have, and see which ones you can renegotiate. Everything's negotiable, from bank fees to rent to whatever. If you have a subscription to online services, and a lot of, especially if you have some like, you know, Salesforce or HubSpot or some of those, you just got to call and say, hey, you know what? Either cut us a deal or just cut the contract because we're done. They'll cut you a deal, and it can be like 70% reduction for 6 months and those types of things. So you don't have to just turn off the tap. A lot of companies were doing that. Just say, okay, we're going to just cancel all these services and systems we use and just hunker in. If you've got a little bit of cash flow or revenue that you can utilize to sustain, and if some of these systems are critical, go out and try and renegotiate those. Secondly is what do you have that you don't need? You know, and that's obvious. Most people are cutting those types of things. In terms of the staffing, there's so many great programs right now out there to be able to support, from job sharing to the 75% wage subsidy to IRAP had some stuff out there. There's a number of those, so keep yourself informed of those and apply to whichever ones you can to help offset those costs. And you know, everybody is, I'm sure, looking at their business, their staff, and other things. And if you do have to lay off, folks to do it in a way where it's kind and all of that, and with the opportunity for them to come back, you know, and see where you can go with that. So yeah, essentially renegotiate, cut where you can, and conserve as much cash as possible. Does that answer the question, or is that kind of what you're looking for, or is there more specifics I could talk about in there?
Yeah, they say that answered their question, so thank you. Something that's top of mind for me, Greg, is the talk of reopen in Saskatchewan. And so what are some of the things that entrepreneurs should be keeping top of mind as we begin to prepare to reopen? So whether it's retail spaces or office spaces, I imagine there's going to be a lot of implications. Like I think about return policies, or in a retail shop trying on clothes or touching things. What are some of the things as we start to, we're not yet in a place where we have a vaccine and all those great things will be able to function, quote unquote, normally or pre-COVID. What are the things that people should be keeping in mind as they prepare to reopen?
So what I would suggest there is, imagine when you reopen that it's the first day of your business, that you're not reopening your old business, and spend a bunch of time looking for the latest, greatest innovations in your industry. So like say trying on clothes, there's virtual things like Sheila had one, I think, where you could scan your body with your cell phone and then it would magically map the outfit onto you and see how it fits. And if you're a retail shop and you're the first one and only one in the city to have that, boom, you know, there's a huge marketing opportunity. You can get in the newspaper, on CTV, all the different things to help drive. And so I would, if I was in one of those types of organizations where you're customer facing and people are going to be coming into a shop, is to scan and find some of the latest, greatest, amazing things that you can incorporate, innovations into your business, and then promote those and use that to drive customer acquisition. And do them, like there's things out there that are going to be extremely helpful for keeping people safe in your store. And whether it's, you know, how you organize, you know, it doesn't have to be a traditional walk in and go down the aisle type of thing. You can maybe have somebody who goes and brings things and presents them to you. I don't know. There's lots of ideas of ways to do it. So that's regardless of what your business is when it reopens to public interfacing. It's some of those innovations that are going to drive the success of your business, and to not try to do it how you did before. And you can do it better and have more traffic. As you know, half the cost, twice the revenue. How do you do that? Well, you can't with your current approach. So change the approach. Is kind of how I tend to view those types of scenarios. Does that help? Is that kind of what you're thinking of?
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. Thank you.
For sure. Yeah.
Anyone else?
So has anyone found new methods of marketing or reaching clients or delivering? Like Jolene, you said you have a new way of delivering your services. Do you have a new way of selling your services as well? Are you still, is your traditional model of how you sold still working, or have you changed the game in that?
Definitely the same for payment. It's always been email transfer. If they want credit card, I'm capable of that as well. But 99% of my companies pay by check. However, the Zoom has been a learning curve, but it is so fun and easy to use. And my clients have given me great feedback. And I have to mail out the reports or deliver them to doorsteps and the books ahead of time, so people have the workbooks. But yeah, it's actually a lot smoother than I thought it would go. And again, I've never been home more often, and I'm having lots of fun with this. I miss speaking at conferences, that part absolutely. And a lot of them have been rescheduling to October. So fingers crossed that those can go on at that time.
Excellent. That's great to hear. That's really good. Anyone else have different approaches to their market that they've taken, that they've had some success with, or that they're still looking for an approach to sell?
Kirk, I think I saw you unmuted for a little while. I think you had.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So Yeah, in our business, we have a strategy that we are moved all of our operations to let our employees work from home, and then we go to the office on a needs basis. And it's been a little bit of a transition because our clients like to do face-to-face meetings with us, and it's like, well, we can't do that now. So Zoom has, just to echo that, Zoom has definitely been a tool that we didn't know how to use, but we're using Zoom right now, and I think that is definitely a great tool that that allows us to stay and, well, kind of do a show and tell with our clients with what's going on. And then we noticed, oh, there's an annotate tool. Wow, you know, and so we started to use annotations, and our client can mark up drawings. And so it's kind of like we figured out how to use it. So it's like we're being right there with our client. And those kind of things are, now we're going to take those forward, and we're going to use them as we expand to other clients that can't do face-to-face with. So for example, let's say in the United States or Europe, and we're going to learn what we use now, and we'll use that in the future moving forward. So this COVID is actually pushing us in good directions.
Excellent. That's great to hear. And I think a lot of people are finding that is, you know, we grew up in a world where traditionally we sat across the table from each other and had business meetings. And a lot of businesses are learning that you can have an entire remote staff, you can have remote customers, and access markets that are way beyond where you were before.
Yeah.
For our team, out of the 50 corporate staff, 17 of them are here in Saskatoon, and the rest are across Canada, and they all work from home. So we were already working from home pre-COVID, and then the people that were here, just about all of them had a work from home day. Most people work from home once or twice a week or whatnot. This is really questioning why I'm paying so much rent, but we'll another day discussion. But it really shows the capacity. So in all of your businesses, you know, as you look to recruit, maybe you have somebody you're trying to find with a really specialized skill, and they actually live out in Peterborough, or they live in, you know, northern BC. Well, you know what, you can actually hire them and incorporate them into your business, because the technology is there, and work is what you do, not where you do it most of the time. And you have a tremendous opportunity to expand your offering and your total available market that you can access.
Yeah, that's going to be the next thing that we kind of put a hiring freeze on our business at the moment, just because of the next people we want to hire, we have to provide a fair amount of training to incorporate their skill sets into the business. So let's say we hire another engineer, and we have to say, okay, how, you know, they're you know, kind of green, and so we have to get them up to speed the way we do things, how we design products and all that. And it's a little bit hard to do that remotely, and so it's something we have to learn how to do. And that's one thing we're struggling with, because typically with you do mentoring, it's very nice to kind of you know, as soon as they need to, well, it takes a lot of time. And what we find is Zoom takes even longer to communicate ideas. And so trying to train someone using Zoom, we're thinking it's like, whoa, this, you know, I only have so many hours in a day. That's going to take a larger chunk than I estimated. So that's something we're struggling with, and we're trying to think, okay, how to solve that problem. And yeah, any thoughts or insights on how to provide mentoring and training remotely?
Sure. Yeah, we've done a lot of that. As I said, majority of our company doesn't work here and has never been to head office, including people at director level, at executive leadership table level positions. And where it starts is essentially in the planning and what it is they're going to need to learn, and developing that onboarding plan. And onboarding is much different than orientation. And When we do it locally with somebody in the office, they're so tightly coupled, they're almost one and the same. You know, here's your desk, here's your computer, here's some of the stuff we're working on today, blah, blah, blah. Here's where the washrooms are. Let's go get some lunch and talk about things. And you're showing them how everything works and orientating. And it's important to separate those two things out. Orientating to, you know, this is how you request vacation, this is how you do this and that, versus onboarding to their job, and look at that as a 3 to 6 month period where there's multiple check-ins. You have we call it the I drive, we drive, you drive, where you watch, then we do it together, and then you do it alone. And having those learning plans for each of those kind of micro learning, and then setting out those modules and being able to track where people are and how they're doing with that. We use Microsoft Planner. It's very similar to Trello. Trello is the free version of that. And we create an onboarding plan through that. And then each card on there is a specific element of their job. A lot of people are really good at self-learning. And that's if they're not, it's a really good skill set to have to look for when you're hiring people. And so if you can give them materials ahead of time, they can read, and then you help them with the questions and conceptualizing and translating it into your business, that can help. So the short answer to that, my long answer there is preparing, having a good training plan and a good feedback loop within there, and monitoring as you go. And you can make it quite efficient and effective, is what we've found.
Okay, yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thanks, Greg.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Any other final questions or thoughts that anyone would like to share or ponder together?
I have one question, is okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Kevin. Right now, I'm support for province. I have a network in Taiwan, Vietnam, Korea, and China. Because I was a government officer before, I can accept a lot of like a supply, mass, something like that. For example, in Vietnam, we can manufacture totally about 300 million masks per month for public. I know when people come back, they need a lot of masks, but I can have. But the thing right now, when I work with Canadian governments, provincial governments, they cannot matching with me because every deal they need to like have a license, import like medical supplies, and they pay within 30 days. But in other side, no manufacturing accept like pay. They all other country, like American, French, they come and they pay off 100% right away. Very hard for me to matching with like people here to serve for Canadian. Yep, you know, I'm looking for a partner for in this situation that can join me for help for Canada. For example, when I read the news, GM will make like 1 million fabric masks for Canadian per month. I think a supply. Don't need to have do that. That 1 month Vietnamese can make for you 300 million masks, maybe the same price. You know what I mean? Yeah, we can make for Canada from Vietnam is better, even we serve for other country. But other things right now, China, they sometimes they ban raw material from, yeah. But we can send raw material like anti cloth, antivirus cloth to Vietnam, and they will make for us. That's it. Sometimes we do faster, better, think outside of the box. Yep. I would like to have your comment and your advice in this situation. Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow, that's okay. So that's sounds like a very important and complex challenge.
Yep.
I don't know that I've completely got my head around what the challenges you're having struggles getting Canadian provincial governments to purchase from you without without financing it up front?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good challenge, and maybe often payment challenges indicate that there's other challenges, and people utilize that as well. I can't pay until I see, or those kind of things. And the challenge is maybe it's in, do you have, I don't know, it could be, are they looking at the timing, the quality, all those types of things, and ensuring that all of those objections have been met? In looking at a sales process of any type, there's always one objection that seems to stand out, but it's rarely the only one, and there's hidden objections that aren't uncovered. And I would really focus on, if you can find one government, one customer that is willing to work with you through how this can work, that might be your path.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
yeah, so it's a very interesting challenge.
Yes. Yeah,
But the
thank
fundamentals of sales, if you really look into that, that's where I would look for a solution.
you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome. I think we're getting close to the end of time here, Sona. I don't know if we wrap up here or what.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm happy to wrap up if there's no other questions. No, just getting lots of thank yous from people, if you can see that in the chat, Greg. So, and from us in the mentorship program, thank you. You've always been such an active member in the business community, and with the mentorship program and the board specifically as well. So thank you for your continued support of the program and being a mentor to many, many people over the years. We can definitely see why you were the first winner of the Ken Smith Windsor Leadership Award. Your leadership is much appreciated during this time. So very much appreciate your time and your guidance today. And to everybody that's joined us and participated in the conversation, thank you for participating. We're here. We really want to bring everyone together and get through this time together. Like Greg says, stronger than before. Our next seminar is on Tuesday at 10 a.m. It's going to be Finding Balance, New Habits, and Achieving a Healthy Mindset with David Smith of Logica Consulting. So we look forward to having you on Tuesday. We'll have the information available online shortly. But again, thank you, Greg. This was a very valuable hour.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone. It was good to connect. And yeah, don't ever hesitate to reach out if there's other questions or things that I could potentially help you with. I'm always available.
Fantastic. We appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great afternoon.